Hey parents, Tim Wright here along with Dr. Michael Gurian, the Wonder of Parenting podcast, brain science approach to parenting. And parents, do you remember that moment when you first noticed someone who made your heart go pitter patter? That boy or that girl, when you saw them, you could hardly think or speak. Every time they walked by you, electricity shot through your entire being. Do you remember what that felt like? And maybe you've got kids who are going through that right now and you're trying to help them navigate. And so today we are going to look at crushes, first love, and hormones and how to help our kids navigate all of that stuff that is so much an important part of their lives. Michael, good to have you with us today to talk about good stuff, love stuff. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, and it is good to talk about. It's the focus of real life is love, isn't it?
That's right. So we're brought to you as always by Man Cave, and their mission is to improve the well-being of children by increasing the number of children growing up with engaged, committed, and responsible fathers or male role models. They promote the importance of nurturing fathers and mothers, parenting and healthy marriages, and in doing so, improve the lives of children and families. That's Man Cave. You can learn more about them at wonderofparenting.com, wonderofparenting.com. Now, this is a bit of a selfish topic for me because my newest Toby Baxter book just came out, and the whole theme is crushes and first loves. And for those of you who might not be familiar with the Toby Baxter series, it's a middle grade fantasy adventure series I've written. This is book 4. Toby is always on these quests into Riverhome, and I wrote the books, first of all, to engage middle school readers with books and hopefully fun reading books. But also, there's some subtle Gurian Wright stuff in those books. They really serve, in a sense, as a rite of passage. And so every book focuses on a different character quality in a humorous, fun, adventuresome way. And in this particular book, it's love. And so Toby has to navigate love as he goes to try to rescue his crush who's been kidnapped by the evil trolls. So he's navigating those feelings. He's got to navigate friendship, love of parents, and even the love of a bully. And so he's going to learn a lot of life lessons around love and first crushes. If you're not familiar with the series, check it out at Amazon. The Adventures of Toby Baxter, book 4 just out. And Michael, I can remember, I think this was the first girl I had a crush on besides my teachers. Probably every boy has a crush on his teachers at some point. But I was in junior high. There was a girl named Sandy that I thought was really cute. And I made the big mistake of telling my best friend about it. And he had to blab it through the whole school. So that relationship went nowhere because I was so embarrassed. But that was the start. And then, of course, dated a few girls and eventually got married. Do you remember your first crush, your first love?
I think so. I think what I remember was I was 13. I believe I was 13. Okay, so my memory's hazy. I think partly because we moved around so much, I have trouble figuring out where I was and when it was. But I think I was 13, and I think I got a hickey from a girl in band. I was in band, so I think I was in 8th grade, and I think we gave each other a hickey. I mean, that was all it was. So I think that was it. But I forgot. I don't remember her name.
Yeah. It's interesting, some of those memories and those things that when you said hickeys, when we would see boys or girls with hickeys on their necks at that age, we thought, wow, they're so experienced.
Right.
It's almost like the forbidden fruit, right? Just the other week, one of my grandsons, who's 13, turning 14, just started asking me questions about dating and love and romance. And it was kind of awkward, sort of a sly question. He wasn't letting on that he liked a girl, but it was very cute. It was very sweet. And he asked me a little bit about falling in love with grandma. And, not all kids, but most kids go through this phase, this time of life where they start to notice people who are attractive to them. Usually the opposite sex, but not always. Could be same sex. And so we thought we'd talk today a bit about what that looks like, what's kind of going on in the bodies of our, especially preteens, middle schoolers, as they move into this time of life, and then maybe help parents a little bit because with crushes and first loves and hormones comes heartbreak more often than not
Yep.
at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point. And it can be so devastating. Whether you're in a relationship and it breaks apart, or this person doesn't even notice that you exist, all of that stuff, which is all so good and such a part of life, can be so harrowing for our kids and for parents. So, Michael, let's start a little bit. What's going on in the brain when the hormones kick in and kids start realizing they're attracted to other people?
Right. Yeah. So we are wired for it, right? Nature has us set up for this, for hormones at a certain point to start washing through. And as, and when we have things like puppy love, or we have, whatever we want to call it, first crush, um, we aren't going to tend to get that with as much emotive input, and even sexual charge, attraction charge, until the hormones have started coming in, because you
Yeah.
can be 6 or 7, right, years old and like somebody,
Yes.
but until the hormones are coming, and that's just that there's something about them you like, but when the hormones come in, as they wash through the brain, they are triggering, it's like a circle. They're triggering parts of the brain, the reward centers, like the caudate nucleus, the nucleus accumbens. These are parts of the brain that are getting triggered by the hormones, right, to work. And as we get the visual attraction, right, and then the pheromone attraction that we're getting because we like somebody, so their pheromones and our pheromones are connecting, and also we're seeing them, right? There's something visually about them that we like. All of that comes together with the hormones to trigger these reward centers, and so then we want them. Let's say I want him, I want her, because in large part the reward centers are triggered in the brain, and exactly what it is that we want or like or love in the other person, that's still very much a mystery.
Mm.
Why do my hormones at let's pick 14, why do my hormones at 14, and my brain, my amygdala, all the, and the dopamine system, why does it like Judy and not Julie? Or no, let me give something better: Judy and not Jane.
Yeah.
Why? It's still a mystery. But there's all sorts of brain stuff in there, like people are attractive to us because there's certain archetypes that exist in them, like their beauty. We
Mhm.
find that beautiful, their visual beauty, their physical beauty, or at that age could be that they're starting. So I'm male, I'm going to say I'm a heterosexual male, so I'm starting to see breasts on her.
Mhm.
So, certainly those features can connect with my brain, sexually. So, but exactly what it is in that other person that I'm in love with, we still don't know. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's the dopamine system and the hormones all working together.
Yeah, and of course, most of us aren't thinking about what our brains are doing. We just know that we can't breathe, our hearts beat faster. Um, if you're, neither one of us can speak about what it's like from a female's perspective to be attracted
Right.
to somebody. But probably you and I have both had the common experience that most males do, that especially that first time around, that for us girl that you're attracted to, and she talks to you, it's like your brain just shuts down. And what is that? It's like a fight, flight, or freeze. And most
Freeze.
of the time we just freeze. We
Well,
become monosyllabic.
yeah, that's the thing. I think what's happening in the brain, this is what's happening in the brain, is that it's so overwhelmed
Yes.
by these feelings that it can't, there, the amygdala and the midbrain, right, which is where we're being overwhelmed with feelings, right? It's very hard for that to go up to where the word centers are. So we are in a kind of freeze mode, and it does feel like fear, And we do want to flee, right? I mean, sometimes we just run
Mhm.
away. We're too young. Like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by this girl talk to me, I run away. So I mean, you can do fight, flight, freeze. But yeah, you're just starting with freeze because it's so much overstimulation. And so we gradually have to learn somewhere between like 14, 15, 16, 13, 14, 15, 16, depending on our trajectory for it. We start learning how to move the signaling up to where the word centers are so that we can actually talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we can't speak for girls. And I'm sure there are many girls out there who've had experiences with guys and they've talked to them, and we just was deer in the headlights, and they probably thought, did I say something wrong? Does he not like me? And we're stunned. We're just absolutely stunned. We're like statues.
Yeah. Well, and this is similar between male female in that, I mean, girls experience, even though you and I are male and we can't
Yep.
speak for a female, but still the brain stuff's very much the same. I mean, because at 14, let's say,
Yep.
girls are going to tend to mature, as we know, or a little earlier than boys. Okay. Tendency. And they do have more connectivity to word centers automatically in just as female brains. So they may get there quicker, where they're able to respond and not freeze and flee. They'll probably get there quicker, but they still go through the same thing. Their dopamine system, is overwhelmed. They're overstimulated by the feelings they're having.
Yeah.
And of course, the cycle of the feelings and the hormones is it just keeps going. Like, so the more afraid we are, the more our hormones are flooding through,
Yeah.
and that's going to be the same for a girl. So that part would be similar.
Well, maybe that's one nice thing that moms can communicate to their sons is, honey, I know you don't feel like you came off well, but she was just as confused
Right.
as you are.
That's true.
And that's okay. We're going to come back and talk more about this. You're listening to the Wonder of Parenting podcast, a brain science approach to parenting. Back with you in just a moment. Michael, before I tell a couple of my stories, one of the differences I know between male and female tends to be this testosterone oxytocin thing. How does that play into all of this stuff for young kids and all their hormones? Do
Yep.
boys and girls, when they start falling in love, sort of balance each other out with oxytocin? What happens?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to answer that. And by the way, I want to say that the Toby Baxter books, if people have not been exposed to them, they are really wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm not, they are
Yep.
what Tim says they are. They not only cover these topics, but they do it with a story that kids love. So I
Yep.
want to put that plug in because
Thank you. Appreciate
it's
it.
true. Yeah. So I would say that there are a number of primary differences. Of course, females have more oxytocin at the baseline. That's a bonding chemical. Males have more testosterone at the baseline. That's an aggression, sex drive chemical. We know that. Then estrogen, progesterone, there's certain bonding elements to that testosterone doesn't have. And but guys do get shots of oxytocin when they're bonding with this person that they love, just like when we marry our spouse, we get shots of oxytocin, and our brain changes when we become dads, and in part because we get so much oxytocin through it, we get the daddy brain. Okay, so we all get what each other has, and I think a primary difference, speaking to the oxytocin and testosterone, and this has to be taught to teenagers, is that the male hormonology is going to be more toward conquest and sex, and having sex and that kind of conquest, and then leaving. Okay, we got to just know that. Not that every boy is going to leave every girl, but as a father of daughters, my kids were young, and I had just written, The Wonder of Boys, The Wonder of Girls. I mean, I had all this research, and then by the time my kids were, early teens, my two daughters, I was like, okay, you need to know this research, because it's not that the guys are bad guys. It's that testosterone and the way it's connected the way that hormone works with the male brain, and also the connection to the visual cortex, and how guys see. They really got to see it. They have that physical attractiveness is really triggers the visual cortex, and that triggers that hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which is where sex is going on. Females have that too, hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis, but it's not as connected to the visual for them, and it's not connected as much to testosterone. So we got to teach our daughters, okay, this is a reason that you are sexually selective, because it's probable that in adolescence, especially with all that testosterone flooding through guys, it's probable that he's not going to stick around. We got to just say that as a probable. And he's not a bad person. He's a good guy, but his brain is set up much more on testosterone, and that connects with all of this other stuff to try to do sexual conquest, which doesn't mean rape or anything. It just means to try to have sex. And then it's probable he's going to go somewhere else to someone else, right? He doesn't have the maturity to stay with someone, and he's not getting the oxytocin hits that she's getting, so switching to her, she's getting all these oxytocin hits. So she's got the bonding chemical going. Yes, she's got some sex chemical going, but she's got a lot of bonding chemical going. So she gets visually what she is looking for, but she's also looking for something relationally. And she can be deceived, actually, that he's going to stick around because she's young and immature and she doesn't know. And then if she allows the sexual conquest to occur, and I mean especially intercourse, I mean going all the way, that kind of thing. Some of the rest of it is experimentation, but going all the way. Okay, if she allows that to occur, she needs to know that the probability is he won't be around, and because he's 16. He's 15, he's 17, he's, whatever. So I would say the biggest difference, and I think the most useful, is to be helping kids understand this. And that means helping guys to understand, hey, if you're going to pursue, then really know that you're going to stick around. That's what's respectful of her. And even though he may not succeed at that, and then for girls to say, okay, you need to really be around with this guy. Let's make sure you're around with him 6 months or a year to see if he's loyal before you go all the way. So in other words, sexual selection for her.
Yeah.
And because that's when you say testosterone and oxytocin, that is the primal difference.
Yeah. So in a sense, especially early on, we're a little bit at cross purposes where girls are looking for the relational connection, boys are looking a bit more for a sexual connection.
Yeah, sexual conquest. Yeah. It's the kind of the thing of and there's exceptions in a minute. I want to talk about the exceptions, but it's kind of the old thing of guys are trying to sow their seed, where they're trying to impregnate a lot of people, right? They're creating trillions of fertile sperm in a lifetime. So where she's creating 300 fertile eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember that correctly, 320. So you've got, there's a whole different natural imperative, and it is set up in part around testosterone and oxytocin when we're talking about the chemicals. But it's also set up around this big male-female difference, and then the brain, it's an evolutionary brain, right? So the brain is accommodating in a circle with these hormonal differences, which then make the brain different. And then they're in a circle with each other. Yeah. And so, yeah. Now there are exceptions. I mean, because someone listening to this will go, I have a 17-year-old boy. He's always loyal. And it's the girl who is sexually aggressive and is playing around. That absolutely is going to happen. I mean, these are immature people, right? So yes, anything can happen. And a girl can be a high testosterone girl, and she can be trying to play around all the time. And the guy can be a low testosterone guy at 17, or just wired, to be more loyal, etc. So exceptions all the time. It is adolescence. But if the question is how do hormones affect, then,
Yeah.
in general, that would be it. And we have, as males and females, especially when we're young, we have a somewhat different sexual prerogative. When we marry, so when we couple with someone for a long period of time, this is why I said to my daughters, make sure you're with this guy 6 months to a year. Um, uh, uh, because I was not going to convince them not to have premarital sex. I mean, I knew that at some point, especially with just generation marrying older, and especially with the girls are marrying older. So I knew my girls were not going to wait to have sex till they were 25 or 27. So I was like, okay, at least be with them 6 months to a year, because the natural prerogatives are different. And even though there are exceptions, the natural prerogatives are different. And the emotional pain girls will feel, I mean, they feel so many more emotions because of their hormonology and the way the brain's set up than boys do. Again, exceptions. There's a boy who feels a lot of emotions. We know that. But at the baseline, they will feel so many of these depressing, sad, negative emotions when the guy leaves them, that you're also trying to protect them emotionally. So it would go for the guy too. If someone knows a son who's really emotionally sensitive, then that's yet another reason, to be teaching him, okay, you're very emotionally sensitive. So, make sure to be bonding with a girl that's going to be loyal to you, because she's going to really hurt you when she leaves.
So, and it's probably good to say here, what we're talking about right here is biology and nature. We're not talking values or morals that families may have around these particular issues. This is kind of how the body works. And then families will need to sort of decide based on how the body works and what we believe about relationships and so on. That's when you walk alongside your kids with what your family values are.
Yeah, absolutely. I was sharing that was my value. Some people would go, no, my value is no premarital sex. And
Right.
fair enough. Yeah, I'm not
Yep.
getting involved in that. Right.
Yeah. We're going to come back. We're listening to the Wonder of Parenting podcast, a brain science approach to parenting. Crush's First Love and Hormones. Back with you in just a moment. So Michael and I wrote we've written a few rites of passage programs. We've written some group programs for sons and their dads, for more faith-based groups, same with daughters and moms. And then we've written some smaller ones for both faith-based and secular. And part of I'm just taking a group of boys in our church through this, and part of it is looking at relationships. And so I tell some of my dating stories, and talk about, the first time I think I was in, must have been ninth grade, took a girl to a local football game, and I had feelings for her, crush. And then I talk about how I made the big ask and asked if I could hold her hand. And then how it felt to hold her hand for the very first time. And I said, I didn't let go for 3 hours. I mean, I worked up the courage for 3 hours just to ask to hold her hand. So for the next 3 hours, I didn't let go. My arm was paralyzed. But, I go into the details that guys have experienced, girls have experienced, of what it felt like, sort of that electrical charge that goes up your hand and out the other hand, and the rush of all those feelings and emotions. And I talked a bit about my first kiss, and all those feelings that come. And so most of our sons and daughters are going to experience that. And those are wonderful things to celebrate with them. And as parents, just to talk about it, in ways that, might gross our kids out a little bit, but it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
For them to know mom and dad were in love at one point, and mom and dad and dad. But there are those times then when the relationship, for whatever reason, comes to an end. And it almost feels like in those younger years, in particular, teenage years, that the intense feelings of romance and the crush are met with the same amount of intense feelings when it doesn't work so well.
Yep.
And the heart is broken. Talk a little bit about what's happening in the body and the brain when there is that relational letdown. We talked about all the dopamine hits that you get when you're in a great relationship. What's flooding through your body when it breaks apart?
Yeah. Yeah, well, all one's nerve endings, like you talked about holding the hand,
Yep.
there's the brain's involved, so therefore all our nerve endings are involved, right? I mean, everything is involved. Brain and body are united in this love we feel, and then we don't have it anymore. So uh, our cells, right? Our cells are emptied out. Our nerve endings
Mm.
are not having this beauty, let's call it, this positive feeling, this wonderful stimulation, however you want to put it. And the brain is not either. And the heartbreak is absolutely a brain response
Mm.
to this emptiness, to this nothingness, to a sense of dark matter, to the void, uh, because it was filled up. So all these brain centers were filled up constantly with hormones and with reward chemistry, and now they are not. The person has rejected me,
Yep.
and now the nucleus accumbens, the ventral striatum, even the amygdala, they're and the connectivity to the frontal lobe and the frontal lobe itself and the temporal lobe, they don't have this chemistry now. And that's what we have to realize as we're parents helping our kids is that it's like a death, and
Mm.
the brain chemistry isn't there. The all the positive emotions aren't there. So now what of course happens is that their brains are creating rumination loops, and rumination loops are generally dark. Rumination loops are what did I do wrong? I'm terrible. I'm worthless. I did something bad. All the things. I look bad. There's nothing good about me, right? It's the kind of the cratering. And the word crater is a really good one because, like I said, the brain's robbed of all this chemistry.
Mm.
So it is as if you're in an abyss, as if you're in a crater without this light. And so the the brain has to regenerate and has to, we have to help the child grieve because it's like a death. So we have to help the child grieve. It's a lot of what heartbreak is. Um, and then we give them tools. We tell them our stories. Okay, this exact thing happened to me. It felt really, really bad. I want to carry your story for you. So talk to me about it. Let me carry your story. What are the feelings you're having? What did you like about her? I'm saying her because I'm a guy, but you could
Yep.
switch that didn't. And let me help you reality check. Is it possible that you're not worthless, but just that you're 15 and she's 15, and that it really has nothing to do with you? It's about her. So we're doing all those things with our child, and our child is turning to his or her peers to try to gradually refill the brain, you know, and refill these synapses and these pathways with the positive, with light, with
Hmm.
a lack of heartbreak, with a lack of rejection, with okay, life is okay. And so we're trying to help them climb out of the abyss and out of the crater by their brains being filled with, okay, wait, I'm a good person. Actually, this wasn't about me, or I'm 15, this is normal, this will happen to me again. And here's what I learned. Okay, so the lesson I learned is don't say that, with the next girl or the next guy, and all of that. And we as parents have to expect with our kids that it's going to take, a month or two.
Yep.
We have to give them time to refill the brain with light.
Well, and the good news is probably most of us parents have been through it, so we
Yep.
have some understanding. And I know you would say we don't want to rush them through the process. There's that grieving process is really important. And there's a lot of different places we could go. We're about out of time here, but um, what what impact is social media having on boys and girls now? Is this making it worse because they get online and they start pouring out their hearts and it gets passed on, and or is it okay to say, "Hey, my heart got broken"?
Oh, I think it's a both. I mean, certainly to some extent, social media and cyberspace, et cetera, is making it worse, and it's distending or elongating the time it takes our children to heal
Mm.
from the rejection. But at the same time, they are sharing with friends, and so they can get some support from friends. which to some extent they're getting through their social media or through their platforms and apps, through texting, they're getting some support. So, I got to say it's a both and.
Yeah.
The only last thing I would say is to parents is just don't let them isolate. When they go through the heartbreak, let them go through the heartbreak, be their helper through it, and help them find mentors like grandparents who maybe they want to talk to more now than they do their parents. Whatever it is, let them be in relationship, because relationship will help heal the trauma. We don't want them to, so relationship being relationship with us adults and with others, not necessarily the girlfriend or boyfriend, right? They're gone, but with others. Relationship heals trauma. We don't want them to isolate. So don't let them lock the room. And even if they say they're online and they're not isolated, if they're not with you and with other people, they're isolated.
Yeah. So the book that spurred this is The Adventures of Toby Baxter, Book 4, I Heart River Home. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about is in the book, although you wouldn't necessarily see it that way because it's in story form. But Toby's in love and he's got all this feeling and then he's got to confront this and that. So I hope if you're looking for a book that might help you have discussions with your students or your kids, check it out. The Adventures of Toby Baxter, Book 4, Books 1, 2, and 3 are also available on Amazon. Michael, thank you. It's always good to chat a little bit with you. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for writing those books too.
Yes, you're welcome. And we just want to give a shout out. We received a very nice notification that there's an organization that rates parenting podcasts, and they've listened to thousands of them. They put a list of the top 100 together, and we were in the top 20. And that's all because of you listening. And we sure appreciate it. Please tell your friends. And this is the Wonder Parenting Podcast. We'll be back with you again next week.